help of faith, it is with the help of the faith. Yeah, okay. That's okay. Yeah. So if you have some kind of intelligence and faith, without intelligence, but without faith, then you will become somebody who will always highlight the faults of others. Because you're intelligent, you will ask questions, there are many things you don't know. You keep on asking question, right? And oneself will never be able to develop a pure attitude towards anything. So therefore, wisdom and faith must go together. Contrarily, if you have only faith and no capacity to judge anything, and do not have enough intelligence and wisdom, then you will become a stubborn person who will remain very stubborn and work very hard, but will not be able to make much progress. We do see some people who really work so hard, but they're not able to achieve much because of lack of wisdom. So now here you might think, okay, if that person doesn't have wisdom, then what to do? Wisdom can be cultivated. In Buddhist practice, we have certain practices where you can improve your wisdom, improve your intelligence. There are practices related to certain mantras to be recited, certain visualizations that can be done, for example, in accordance with the wisdom deity Manjushri, right? And through that, and then through repeated analysis and study, your mind will become sharper and sharper, right? And the good news is that there was a time when scientists and others used to think that when you grow older, your mind will then become kind of stagnant and you will suffer from dementia. It's old people's disease. And then your brain will become hardened and you will not make much progress. That was the old classical science. Now the modern science talks about neuroplasticity. That means the more you continue to train your mind and train your brain, the mind and brain, despite your physical aging, the mind and brain becomes sharp and clear. Neuroplasticity, right? And especially at the time of the death, when gradually all the grosser elements dissolve, grosser minds dissolve, and then finally the mind, reaches the subtlest state, which is called clear light, then the mind is extremely penetrative and sharp, right? So if we practice, it is possible. But unfortunately, many of us don't know how to practice. Therefore, when we talk about practice, we primarily use our senses, sense consciousnesses. You see a Lama, you see a Buddha's image and feel happy, you do some prostration, then that is physical, and then you do some chanting mantra, that is verbal, and then you burn some incense, that is smell, right? Just as you highly employ the five senses or sense consciousnesses for your mundane activities, similarly, in Dharma practice also, you primarily use these five senses. That is not a good way of Dharma practice. As I mentioned earlier, meditation means making your mind habituated, not your senses, your mind habituated with this religious practice. Why this is important? This is important because when you die, what goes to the next life is not your sense or sense consciousnesses. What goes to the next life is your mental consciousness. So in your practice, in your meditation, if you left a kind of indelible imprint on the mind by involving the mind, then it will, in this life, it will help you because your mind is your boss, as I mentioned earlier. Your mind is the one that controls your life. So in this life also, you will be able to change your whole life. And then in the future also, it is this highly trained mind which goes to the future life, qualified mind which goes to the future life. So therefore, again, you will have a happier life. So that is the process. Okay, so therefore, wisdom and faith must go together. So based on that wisdom and faith, then persistence, that is the third word that is used in this life. You should persistently use your wisdom and faith. That means you should have faith, you should have wisdom. These two must be there. In addition to that, there must be persistence, which means effort, which we already discussed. Because devoid of making effort, even if you have very good wisdom, even if you have faith, but you will not be able to make much progress. Right? This reminded me an English saying, which says, you judge yourself by what you think you can do. People will judge you what you have done, not what you are thinking. So with wisdom, you can think, you can think you are very smart. I can do this, I can do that, You're able to count all the 5 paths, 10 spiritual grounds, things like that. And you also have a lot of devotion to the Buddha, but you're not moving forward because you're not making effort. So therefore, making effort, it's only by making effort that you'll be able to make progress in your spiritual practice. So these three must come together. And with the presence of these three qualities, then you should be able to fathom and understand the experience and realizations and the other qualities of the Buddha. Because your purpose of following the teacher is to imbibe all his good qualities, whatever his experience, whatever his realization. You need to copy that, right? So therefore, the line is saying that you must, with these three things, understand the thought of the teacher. Okay? Then the next, you need to remain untainted by faults in thought, word, and deed through being mindful, conscientious, and careful. So that means, as a Dharma practitioner, you need to protect your body, speech, and mind, make them faultless, blameless, or at least less fault. So in order to do that, you need to have these three practices: mindfulness, conscientiousness, or heedfulness, right? These three must be there. Mindfulness means make sure that your mind stays on the chosen object, the focus of your practice. And then it is the conscientiousness which sees whether the mind is going away from that object. It's the watchdog, right? Then on top of this, you should be heedful, meaning you should really judge yourself whether you're doing anything destructive or anything constructive. And you should be able to refrain from all the negative, wrong ways of thinking, wrong ways of doing, wrong ways of speech. So whether you're able to really understand the deeper thoughts of the Lama or not is very much dependent upon you. Because if you don't cultivate these qualities, this reminds me, Shantideva even folding his hand and saying that please, to be successful in your practice, you must use mindfulness, conscientiousness, heedfulness. I'm requesting you, please, with my folded hand. That is what is said in Shantideva's Bodhisattva way of life. Okay. So therefore, in order to really understand the deep thought of the Lama, you should always be listening to his teaching and then keeping it in the mind. As we say in Tibetan, that it should not be like listening from this right ear and then sending it from the left ear, right? Or it should not be like putting a lump of gold in the ear of a donkey. If you put a lump of gold in the ear of a donkey, the donkey has no idea. He might, instead of appreciating that it is a gold, he might think this is another stone or something, feel irritated. So it should not be like this. Regard this teaching as something very precious and keep it in your heart. And you need to do repeated practice because we are not used with this practice. So unless you do repeated practice, it will not, stay in your mind. So in this way, you should continuously practice, and then you will be able to understand the thought of the Buddha. Right? And if you do that, that is also a good way of pleasing the Lama. And that is a good way of course, understanding the thought of the Lama. Right? And if you don't develop this mindfulness, conscientiousness, and heedfulness, then you may be like a person who is living in an ocean, but dies of thirst. Even if you live in the ocean, if you don't drink water, you will die of thirst. It will be like that. Okay. Now, in order to ensure that your three doors, the body, speech, and mind, are not tainted, you need to adopt certain attitude and certain conduct, certain behavior. You need to keep your resolve steady and unwavering with the armor of fortitude. Armor is an example. For example, when you go to war, then it is important that you protect yourself by wearing the armors. You should prepare that much in advance. So in our case also, whether we are engaging in listening or engaging in thinking, in order to achieve perfection in listening and thinking, you need to make that promise right from the beginning that I will achieve perfection in my listening and thinking. You must make a promise. So that's like putting on the armor. Or even if you're undertaking some meditation practices, you should develop this motivation that for these 3 months, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'll do meditation. Or for these 6 months, I'll do this and I'll not go anywhere. Make that promise and then live up to that promise. Similarly, if you're receiving a monastic vow, a novice monk vow, or a fully ordained monk's vow, nun's vow, you should make that promise. Because if you don't make any resolve, any steady resolve, any reliable promise, then you will be running everywhere, just like everybody is doing, because you don't have any determination, any sense of direction. Then you will meditate only when you see some other people meditating. You will say, okay, now I should meditate because he is also meditating. Oh, I should become a bhikshu because he also become a bhikshu. My friend also become a bhikshu. So all your dharma practices will become again a negative competition. And that kind of attitude will not help you achieve perfection in your practice. So therefore, first you should make this armor-like resolve or promise. And then in order to not only, it's not enough to make that resolve and promise, but you should be able to sustain that promise. Sustainability, as we say. So for that, you need that determination or courage. Courage, you should have that courage. In Dharma practice also, we need courage. If you don't have a courage, you can't do Dharma practice because you might think, oh, I want to do Dharma practice, but what my parents will say, what my brother will say, what my husband will say, what my wife will say, right? So if you don't have the courage, you can't make bold decisions. But of course, that courage, the determination based on courage should not be, made hurriedly, but with proper thinking, you should have courage. Because if you have that courage, then when you actually do the Dharma practice, you will be able to undergo hardship. Ordinarily speaking, also, if somebody is not very courageous and kind of coward, then the more you think, the more you will become timid. Then you will run away from the battlefield and you will not be able to fight the war. So therefore, through thinking, increase your courage, which means, yes, I can do. Why not? I can cultivate bodhicitta. Why not? I can cultivate compassion. Why not? So that is called determination. That is called courage. Contrarily, if you lose confidence, if you lose courage, thinking that I can't do, I'm not so intelligent, my friends will not support me, I'm not meeting good teacher, you keep counting all the miseries, not only in Dharma practice, in life also. Much of the problem that we face is because we have this habit of counting all the curses, not the blessings. So we need to, as I said earlier, you will see what you want to see. So if you count the blessings, it will embolden you, it will instill courage, and you will find the direction, you will be able to do the practice. But if you just count the curses, then you might become timid and not be able to have the courage to do the practice. Okay, so first, initially, you need that motivation, the armor-like motivation. Then in between, you need that courage to do the practice, not for just 1 month or 2 months, but the determination to carry it thoroughly until you achieve perfection in that practice. Okay. And based on that courage, your your body and speech should also be able to remain stable, right? There are some people who may be able to develop some courage, but they don't watch their mouth and say all kind of things and then bring a lot of troubles upon themselves. And then there are others who are not able to sit properly. They want to move in the south and north, east, then when will you find time to do Dharma practice, right? So I've been repeatedly saying, according to some Kadamba masters, teachers, they say that our human problem is neither we are able to live alone, nor we are able to live harmoniously with others. There's a major problem, especially in today's world. You should learn to do one thing. Okay, if you're asked to live alone, now this COVID-19, has clearly shown, because ordinarily the so-called the normal days, before the COVID-19, people are doing all kind of silly things, going out, travel up, down, most of the day dinner and lunch in the restaurant and hotel, okay, and so they are used only in going out to see friends, to relatives, to shopping, and out and out. Happiness will come from outside, peace will come from outside. That is our tendency. Then suddenly our Guruji, COVID-19, passed a law much stronger than any law passed by any government so far. Even the communist government, even the communist, the so-called, dictatorial communist government also become totally helpless with the COVID-19. So that was very comforting to me. Because normally they think they can do anything. They can bully people, they can exploit people, they can vanish people, they can, do away with people. They're doing everything that they wanted to do by using force, surveillance, and things like that. When COVID-19 came, all the leaders are brought on their knees. So I call it Guruji. So then we then realize that then many people, now you have to use this face mask, you need to quarantine, you need to live alone, all these things came. Many people were suffering, having problem, not knowing how to stay in the room, strange as it is. Because what they have learned is only going out, not going within themselves. The Buddhist teachings are saying that the gem and the jewel and the most precious things that you want, the happiness, the peace that you want, they will be found within yourself, not outside. People don't listen. Now, see, COVID-19 proved it, supported Buddha's teaching. So during this COVID-19 pandemic, many people asked me to please share your Dharma teaching talk. It's so good. It is so beneficial. So at the end of the day, unless you learn to live with yourself, unless you learn to live alone, unless you learn to go alone, we came into this world alone, we'll go from this world alone. Why so much fuss in between? So we need to learn this. We need to learn this. So the point that I'm making is, at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, unless you cultivate these inner qualities, it is almost impossible to achieve long-lasting peace, happiness, and harmony. Doesn't really matter how many international, beautifully, prepared documents are signed for agreement, for peace, for harmony. These are, nice documents are made to be violated later on. It really looks like. And then all this arms and police, mainly used by the government to bully people, unfortunately. Originally, the idea may be to really protect people. Nowadays, people, when they see police, they don't feel happy. They feel scared. But somehow ordinary people, they're helpless because the government has these machines of police and, army and things like that. But what the main point I'm making is, the police can control you physically, but they cannot control your mind. They cannot control your mind. We have so many stories of Tibetans who were imprisoned by the Chinese. And some of them, you will be surprised to see this. This is not, I'm not telling you a fairy story. I'm telling you stories of people who I met who suffered in the prison for many, many years. Some of them like 16, 17, 20 years. And not all of them, of course, but some of them, when they came out from the prison, where they're of course not treated nicely at all, they came out of prison after 16, 17 years saying that my best Buddhist practice was when I was in the prison. Can you imagine? Unbelievable. So what I'm trying to say is, if you really, really train your mind, you can do miracles. You can do miracles. No need to follow just Buddhist teaching. If you read the stories of people who suffered in the concentration camp, some of them said the only quality that made them survive during this in the concentration camp, when they encountered so many hardships, the only quality that made them survive despite those difficult situations was love towards their family. I've read books like that. You see? So they will protect you, they will help you. So that's why it is important to cultivate these inner qualities. Okay. So it is important to have that joy, happiness, faith, wisdom, and courage to do the Dharma practice. In other words, when you do your Dharma practice, you should be ready to do it alone. That's the point I'm making. It should not be dependent upon other people. Ordinarily, when someone else is doing, then you also join. When nobody is doing, you also don't want to do. Right? You feel very comfortable if you do a group meditation, because then at least you see that you are also counted as another meditator by other people, So all of our practices are kind of show business. We want to go around the temple because people can see it. We want to do this prostration before the Buddha's image because many other people are there, they will see it. We will meditate in a public place because many people will see it. Now, when nobody is seeing, when you're alone in your house, there is no prayer, there is no meditation. So intentionally or unintentionally, our practice is also becoming a show business. Dharma practice is not for show. That's why the great practitioners like Milarepa, he was hiding himself from people. Those of you who have not read Milarepa's story, do read it. It's unbelievable, story, which only very few people can do it. But you can really see the courage that we are talking here of Milarepa. He was running from mountain to mountain, mountain to mountain. When his sister, occasionally she is able to meet him, and then sister cries and saying that, look at your, body. You don't have clothes. You have no sense of shame. No, you're not living with people. Look at those other lamas, who come and bless multitude of people, who come with banners and canopies on their head, and come with, the long cavalry, horses in line, with brocades and all the beautiful ornaments. And they sit on high throne, enjoy very sumptuous, delicious food. So this is the way of some of these great teachers. Look at you, you're like beggar, worse than a beggar. You have no sense of shame, right? Then Milarepa told the sister, yes, my sister, if I do a fake Dharma practice, I can do all this. This is very easy, he said. If I want to do a fake Dharma practice, I can do it like that. I can do much more than that. It's very easy. I'm doing genuine Dharma practice. Therefore, not many people are following it. Not many people are able to do it. And it is because of this, he was able to achieve enlightenment in one lifetime. He was able to fly. He was able to control all the elements. All these are explained if you read his biography. It's unbelievable. Things can be achieved through rigorous, persistent practice. Oh yeah, that's oh, okay, so stop here today. Some questions?
Christine, please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hello. Quite recently, I did a course with Tujita. It was brilliant, I thought, on introducing me to meditating the shamatha way. I apologize if I don't pronounce that correctly.
Yeah.
Like you said about finding a lama to follow, it is very difficult in the numerous books that are written to know which ones to choose. Could you recommend any books to follow on to develop how to meditate, and also something you just mentioned about to cultivate wisdom through meditation?
So read His Holiness the Dalai Lama's books. There are many books by him, and over 100 books. So read that part which deals with shamatha and meditation. And there is one book by him based on his teaching, which I translated. That may also be useful, which is called Stages of Meditation. Stages.
Oh, I think I have that one.
You have that one? Yeah. So that talks about both the shamatha and vipassana. So vipassana is the wisdom, shamatha is the calm abiding meditation. So this root text is written by a very famous teacher, Kamalashila, Indian teacher, who came to Tibet. And His Holiness, that stages of meditation has 3 parts: first, middle, and third. So His Holiness many times give commentary to the middle part. So that book, Stages of Meditation, is an explanation of that part. So that deals, in a quite extensive way, these 2 points, shamatha and vipassana. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I have this question. I took refuge like 3 times with 3 different teachers.
Yeah.
And I'm now worried about if that's a broken Samaya, if I don't go following one of them, or what should I do? Did I do something wrong taking refuge
No.
with 3 trends?
You're taking refuge is not so much whether you should follow their teacher or not. Your refuge is you take refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay, so you need to, you take refuge many times. It's good, just like, food, we have to eat many times. Lunch, dinner, breakfast, many times. Okay, we need to continuously eat for the body. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, then in between Kit Kat, whatever, so many things we have to eat. So likewise for the mind also, it's good to do all kind of practices. Okay. So it is okay that you have received this taking refuge from 3 lamas. Now the only question is, after having taken refuge from these 3 lamas, let us say if you find one lama not so reliable. So now in that case, what you need to do is the fact that you received that refuge from him, from that point, you should be grateful to that person. But that does not mean that you need to always follow him or submit to him. For example, if you have now found that person not very reliable, then just don't develop any negative attitude, just distance yourself from that person. Okay, so it's basically using common sense. Okay, so the important thing for you is to study more about the qualities of the Buddha, his physical quality, mental quality, verbal quality. Similarly, the meaning of Dharma. Dharma refers to the cessation of negative emotions. Okay. And the path that leads to the cessation of the negative emotions. And then the Sangha are those who sincerely engage in such practice, who are your role models, So these 3 are important to understand. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Hello, thank you for your teaching. I was wondering yesterday, when trying to cultivate when you're trying to cultivate bodhicitta, is it possible to have uncontrived bodhicitta without understanding emptiness? Like yesterday you mentioned how at some point you should care about others more than yourself, but I would figure that's hard to do unless you understand emptiness, because at some point you're always gonna feel hungry or grasp at yourself or something.
They are related, but there are 2 ways. It depends whether you are an intelligent person or not so intelligent person.
That's for debate for me.
So the text says, those who are not so intelligent, then they first develop the practices on the side of the method, which is compassion, loving kindness, bodhicitta, and then spend more time to developing the wisdom, understanding, shunyata. Now, in the case of the people who are more intelligent, they first study and develop not necessarily the uncontrived one, which takes time, of course, but at least you start your study and meditation, things like that on shunyata or emptiness. And thereby, of course, shunyata is not nothingness, it is the other side of the interdependent origination. Then through that way, you're able to see your connection to the rest of sentient beings. And then you are able to develop all these qualities like loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, and so forth. Okay, that is the way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. No yellow. No yellow person.
No yellow, no yellow person.
Okay.
Or any other color.
Yeah. Okay, then conclude.
Anybody still has a question? This is your chance. Otherwise, we conclude because we've been running over time for a few days. So we took Geshe-la's precious time.
Mm.
May the precious Supreme Bodhicitta, not yet born, arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. In a land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Thank you so much, Geshe-la,
Thank
for
you.
sharing your wisdom and very practical advice with us. Thank you so much, Geshe-la.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good evening. See you tomorrow again. Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow, 5:30 Indian time. Have a good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining.
Bye bye. Thank you.